Hi, Catherine. This is Danny Jarabek with Awards Radar. I am so delighted to be speaking with you today. You are, of course, the director of Mafia Mamma, the film we'll be discussing. And how are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited that we have a movie opening in theaters, so that's cool.
Absolutely. That's such an accomplishment. So, congratulations, first of all. And the movie we're talking about, Mafia Mamma, features, of course, a mom who is thrust into this world that she could never have imagined to be a part of. And I would love to hear just a little bit of your vision and your interest in telling this story.
Well, Toni, I had done another movie with Toni Collette, and she sent me this script, and I'm like, oh my God. I imagined Toni playing Kristen as I was turning the pages, reading it, and I'm like, well, maybe turning the pages on my iPad, and so I'm just seeing Toni, how much fun she could have doing this, because we've seen Toni doing a lot of kind of like dark things and getting murdered and kicked down a staircase. I'm like, I want to see Toni having fun and, taking her power, finding her power. So I'm just like getting more and more excited about this. And then I thought, Italy, we're filming in Italy. It's going to be absolutely beautiful there. We can find the most yummy locations and the food and everything. So I just thought the idea that it was kind of this woman that starts as a real people pleaser, and she's kind of stepped on by her husband, her son. Definitely her bosses are very, male gaze type things, always looking at women on jet skis and stuff. And by the end, she really finds her power. Don't mute her anymore. They muted her in that Zoom call. Let her have a voice. She had great ideas. She even has a great idea how to transform the mafia to be more humane and more like personal.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you say there at the end about, she's of course becomes directly involved with the mafia, and the film also mentions some other prominent mafia type films in history too, which is a genre that's very much dominated by men, as you said. And so, what was maybe something about this script in particular, with two female stars at the center of it, that really spoke to you?
Well, that made me excited when I read Mafia Mamma to think we get to do a mafia movie, like a Godfather kind of movie with some of those fun Italian vibes and everything. But we have women leading the pack. I mean, our consigliere is Monica Bellucci, and she's elegant, Dolce Gabbana, fabulousness, but she's the brains behind the organization. And then she helps Tony understand how to run the mafia. So it's just kind of fun and fabulous in every way.
I would love to hear you mentioned that, at the center of this is Toni Collette and Monica Bellucci, of course, and two fabulous actresses. What was it like working with them and allowing them to sort of breathe life into the story?
Both Toni Collette and Monica Bellucci are, of course, they're amazing professionals and they've done an incredible body of work, but they also are like kids. They want to have fun. They wanted to make it funny and unique and creative. So they had a lot of creative ideas. They were always game for things. Monica, I didn't know how composed she would be. Oh no, I want to do something wild, climb on top of town, all the kind of fun things. The wilder the better for both of them. And of course, I'm like, yeah, don't hold back.
Something else you mentioned is that you had the opportunity to film in Italy, which I'm sure was a beautiful experience. I'm very jealous of anyone who gets to spend some time in Italy. What was that like?
Oh my God. Okay. We were all around Rome, and Rome, is such an ancient city that everywhere you go has another layer, another layer, another layer. We filmed in 400-year-old villas in like a vineyard that had been there for 1,000 years, So every time you would go there, the homeowner would say something like, you see that cow head on the wall? That cow gave milk to the Pope during World War II. And you're like, what? The Pope? Or the Pope slept in that villa. Or, the Roman emperor, second Roman emperor, his ophthalmologist gravestone was found on this property right where you're standing. And then they showed me the gravestone. So you have this crazy history that you just feel it in your bones. You feel it in the stones and in the trees and everything. And that, I think, the fact that all our other cast are Italians, and our crew is Italian, so you really get Italy, like it really seeps into the movie.
Of course, and one of the things that I think helps that feeling a lot is, of course, the locations, but also the production design. And I know you have an extensive background in production design as well. Can you describe a little bit about what you sort of envisioned for what this film would look like? Maybe some of the things like the color palette, the locations, the set designs.
Right. I think, I was extremely excited to use real locations. Even though I'm a production designer and architect, I didn't really want to build the sets. I wanted to be sure that it felt real in every moment. So I had the chance to go and look at all these beautiful villas, the courthouse is amazing. Every home that we went in, like where Lorenzo lives, is an artist home, so you have this collection of 400 years of Italy in that room. So I think I really wanted to feel the texture of Italy, feel the stones, feel it. And so we had some beautiful paintings. Actually, my sister is a wonderful painter, Irene, and we used her paintings kind of as a color palette because she had beautiful colors, that really feel like the Italian palette. So yeah, a combination of everything. It's an ideal place to film, to say the least. There have been wonderful architects there for 1,000 years.
I would love to hear too, the typical mafia or mob type of movie has a much more serious, I think, tone, whereas this felt there was, of course, serious elements to it, but also a lot of comedic elements that brought sort of a different life to it. What was working with that sort of balance like?
Well, to me, my first movie is 13, so that feels like a very serious movie, but if you watch it again, there's a lot of humorous moments because, of course, it's 13-year-old girls, and they're playful. Lords of Dogtown, skateboarders, very playful and very funny. So and the other movie I did with Toni Collette and Drew Barrymore called Miss You Already is a comedy too. So for me, I've always loved it, and to be able to have a chance to just do a full-on comedy right now after we've come through global pandemic and everything, I think it's what people, or at least what I wanted to be around, something that I could enjoy and laugh and kind of find it to be a bit outrageous at times, like the violence or whatever. Just lean in and have a fun, wild ride and imagine that you're on a trip to Italy.
Well, I can certainly imagine that as I was watching it, and I hope that many others feel that way too. But going back to Toni Collette, she of course is at the center of this, and she undergoes this sort of wild, quick transition, and
Yes.
Just like I said, she's thrust into this world that she didn't even know existed. So what was it like, sort of directing her in the way that she's adapting to these very quick changes in her life?
I think that fish out of water, comedy is a lot of fun. Zero to hero, where she's literally just kind of wide-eyed. She's been in her own little world in California, advertising agency, working for pharmaceuticals in a very small bubble. And suddenly you're right, she didn't watch the Godfather movies. She wasn't enamored of the mob or anything. So this was just a whole other world to her. And she was innocent. She didn't even think she could be falling into this crazy world. So feeling working with Toni, we had wonderful rehearsals with the Italian actors and just feeling her bubbly innocence in a way. And then what does she do when she's confronted with the reality of her family? That was fun to navigate all of that. And of course, she has a great teacher, Monica Bellucci is kind of her teacher, helps her get her style together, helps her understand how to deal with people.
Of course, and that was what I wanted to ask about next was Toni and Monica's relationship, both as characters and as performers in this, because of course, what I love is how really the one person who is there for her and supports her through this change is Monica's character, and they have a really dynamic relationship on screen, and I would love to hear about that working through that on screen, but also the pair of them working together off screen as well.
Okay, well, one thing that's great is they are such contrast in real life, in a way, and their characters are contrast. I mean, Monica's character is very composed and very elegant, and Toni is more exuberant and fun, which in a way is how they are in real life too, because Toni would be between every scene, she'd be dancing, doing these crazy dance moves, she'd have all her music, she'd get all the other actors that would dance, and Monica was quite elegant and, reading something beautiful, but both of them were, as soon as it's like action, let's shoot, they're 100% in their characters and very excited to make it as interesting as they can, unexpected, try new things, So pushing the limits of the comedy, nobody was shy in this movie.
Were there any great stories that came from being on set in Italy? I'm sure you know all the great spots around Rome at this point to hang out and and to drink great wine.
Well, yes, but as a director, you get to work pretty hard. So you don't get to go out partying that much. But then, of course, even outside Rome, we would go with Toni would say, let's go an adventure to the coast and like dive off the cliffs into the ocean, which we did that into the Mediterranean. We did that a few times. One time we happily dove off the boat and got stung by jellyfish. They have jellyfish in Italy. No, Italy's supposed to be perfect, But we had just so many beautiful times, like having delicious meals and, too much. I mean, I can't eat that much. I'm kind of I didn't want to like gain 40 pounds, But in that little town where we shot like the action sequence, it's a cobblestone street up a hill. So I must have run, some days I had like 32,000 steps running up and down that damn hill like so many times. Action! So that kept the pasta off a little.
I did want to ask what were maybe some of the challenges of shooting on location, because that brings with it a whole different approach to how you shoot.
Right. Well, we shot, on the beautiful Porta San Angelo Bridge right near the Vatican. That is one of the most crowded places in Rome. And we shot there in the summer. You see a scene where Toni and Kristen and Lorenzo are eating gelato, ice creams, and everything. And there are like thousands of tourists we had to hold back. It was a pretty hectic day, but you get the Castle of San Angelo, you get the Vatican in the shot, and very beautiful seagulls. I think the Italian seagulls are actually trained to fly toward the camera and swoop around. Watch the seagulls in that scene.
Well, Catherine, thank you so much for your time. I love being able to chat with you about Mafia Mamma. And also, as a massive Twilight fan, it was a huge honor to be able to talk to you today. So thank you so much for sharing some insight into your movie, and congratulations again. And thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.